another hands down DFS video. Today we are going to be looking over the PrizePicks plays. Over the weekend I was in the great state of Tennessee, which does not allow PrizePicks yet, so wasn't able to do a lot of action there. So definitely want to come back now that I'm back here in Orlando. Want to come back strong with another good game of PrizePicks. Last week we were pretty money on cashing on both the Monday night game and the Thursday night game, so we're hoping to carry some of that on into this game tonight between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. A very strange game because I think both teams played very differently than how they're going to be playing the rest of the season. I don't think the Lions are ever going to score that many points again, and I also don't think that the Packers are going to score that many points again either. Both in different ways. Lions overperforming in how many points they scored, Packers underperforming in that terrible game that they had against the Saints last week. So with that, we're going to jump in. These are some of the plays. This is PrizePicks. If you've never used it before, you have all of these different props, and you just click over on each player, and then you hit the over or the under on what you expect. And so when you're looking at it, you have a lot of information here. You have a lot of different plays. They even have some plays already up for the Thursday game and Sunday as well. So they really get those projections up early, those lines early. And so what I went ahead and did, you can do this for single stat and fantasy score. So what I did is I took all of the single stats and I passed that over into a spreadsheet. And then I also took some projections from our friends over at Fantasy Pros. They have free projections that you're more than welcome to look up, and if there is any movement, you feel free to go to fantasypros.com. They have great deals on their Hall of Fame package. If you haven't used PrizePicks before, you can go use a promo code there. If you go to fantasypros.com, you can find that there, and you get 6 months of their Hall of Fame package for free. Really great deal. A lot of awesome if you do season-long fantasy and you do DFS as well. Great tool. So what we're going to do is we're over here over at our spreadsheet here. And so we have, this is the PrizePicks plays, and these are the projected plays. These are the picks, if you just want to get to it. These are the picks that Ryan and I are going to go with. This is Scotty here. And so I'm going to have these three plays. Ryan's going to have these three plays. I think both of them are pretty solid based on the data that we have. I'm going to go over the projections a little bit, but I know everybody just wants to have their picks. And so those are the picks that we're going to be playing with today. I found that the three picks power play is kind of a good little soft spot area where you can get 5x if you can just kind of find the best three plays. And so even at the minimum entry of $5, if you throw in $5 on a game that you don't really care necessarily about, I don't think the Packers and Lions is going to be drawing a lot of interest. But hey, throw $5 on it. If the three picks that you pick hit, you end up with $20 profit. It's pretty good. And so, yeah, so I found that the three picks is kind of the money area there that I like to go with on that power play. So with the projections, what we have is in green, we have the ones that are the highest of their category. And so let's start off at the top with Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff, both passing yards. Both players are projected to go over their PrizePicks totals per Fantasy Pros. And so with that, I think the reason being, I think Aaron Rodgers, people are just saying that he got embarrassed last week, right? Jameis Winston came out, clearly outperformed him. Jameis Winston looked like garbage yesterday in the game he played against the Panthers. And so I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out, play better. I think he's going to silence the haters. He's going to do his relax thing that he does, and he does it every year. He has a terrible kind of start, and then he figures it out. I think the Lions is a great place to figure it out. Whether or not he figures it out for the rest of the season, I don't know. But it is something where he probably will have a solid game. And so even if they are running the ball for most of the fourth quarter, we think that this is a pretty reasonable spot to go to. That's why he is one of my picks, is Aaron Rodgers over the 279.5 passing yards. And so that is definitely something that I like. And again, it is important to know that these lines on PrizePicks and the projections as well, they're constantly moving. And so if there is something, any movement, or you do see this video, please go over to PrizePicks immediately and see if there's any update. This is the projections that we have. I feel pretty good about them. So even if they do move a little bit here and there, I don't think it should be anything too drastic unless there is an injury, which we'll get to a little bit later with a specific player. And so Jared Goff is another player last week. I think he overperformed. He had over 300 yards last week, and so hitting that 250 should be something that he can do. But again, there was a strange game where they were down. For most of the game, they were throwing a lot. We didn't see that many rushing yards out of DeAndre Swift last week or Jamal Williams, and so part of that is because they were down. They were facing a pretty strong defensive front, but they still were able to put up a lot of points. And so I think Jared Goff is another player who should be able to have a pretty strong game. I don't like him nearly as much as Aaron Rodgers because, you have guys like Jair Alexander, and you have King on the other side for the cornerbacks for the Packers there. And so I think that's going to be tough. I don't necessarily love any of the wide receivers per se in this. So if you think that you can get some dink and dumps with Swift and Jamal Williams, and you can also throw TJ Hawkinson in there to get to that over that 252.5, because I don't think a lot of it's going to be coming from the wide receivers. I think good luck with you. But I'm going to stay away from the Jared Goff. Might even take some under on that if I go outside of the picks that I've already selected. Rushing yards, we're going to move over to next. I think Aaron Rodgers at the rushing yards and Jared Goff. Quarterback rushing yards are strange unless you have somebody like a Daniel Jones or a Lamar Jackson. I can't believe I used them both in the same sentence, but there it is. And where they get a lot of rushing yards, right? We saw Daniel Jones last week have almost 100 yards, and Lamar Jackson, everybody knows what he does. These guys, where it's kind of in this weird no man land of 7.5, 8.5. The weird thing about that is, that's one good scramble for a first down, and they're over that. But how often does that necessarily happen? Jared Goff did have 14 yards last week, I believe, around that, with 3 carries. But he is projected to have less because per PFF, the Packers have the best tackling team as far as not missing any tackles. And so I don't think there'll be a lot of yards after catch for a lot of the wide receivers or a lot of running backs for the Lions. I also don't think there'll be a lot of yards after contact as well. And so those are the two quarterbacks there. Aaron Rodgers is a little bit more favorable per the projections, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wants to run the ball. I don't even know how much he wants to play football. And so I don't think he wants to go out there and bang his body up. And so those two I'm going to kind of pass on. Moving down the list, we have Aaron Jones, rushing yards. We have him projected about 5 yards more than expected. And I think last week is a week that we're expecting him to kind of bounce back after a really rough game. We think that this is going to be more game script positive, where the Packers are going to be leading more during this game and against that front. I think the Packers' offensive line should be able to kind of have their way against that front of the Lions there. And it's kind of the same with DeAndre Swift, more so. I think he can get to 50 yards easily. The 40.5 is what we need him to get to. The Packers defense is not known for its run defense. It wasn't known for it last year. They lost to Darius Smith, who's more of a pass rusher, but still going to be a big blow to that offense not having it. And so I think the DeAndre Swift rushing play is definitely something I like there, and that's a reason why he's part of my pick. And then we also have Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon, kind of the backups here. Jamal Williams, I think, has more interest as Ryan picked him as a rush or as a receiving. I think he's more of the third down back, something that we saw a lot back when he was against the Packers. It's a revenge game narrative. You gotta love that. So I don't necessarily love his rushing upside. He's actually projected to have 0.3 yards under what his PrizePicks is, but obviously you can have 0.3 yards. That's not a thing, but so I would stay away from that. A.J. Dillon could have a game where he comes over, if they are kind of just running the ball well against this Lions front that isn't very menacing at all, and he comes in for a couple relief drives for Aaron Jones and he gets some carries, then he definitely is somebody who could get to over that 36.5. But again, I don't like necessarily on those power plays where all of your picks have to hit. I don't necessarily like banking on a backup running back in those spots for the rushing yards. Going over to the receiving yards, we have Aaron Jones, we have DeAndre Swift. Again, for the running backs, we also have Jamal Williams down here as well. Aaron Jones going to be catching out of the backfield is something that I really like. Again, over here, he's on my receiving yards, so he's the guy I like there. Ryan went with Jamal Williams on the receiving side, and so those are kind of the big plays there. I think Devontae Adams and DeAndre Swift, all these guys who, even Robert Tonyan, who are over the or about close to the 9, you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They're all close to being about 10 points over their projected. Those are the guys I would like more. You see guys like TJ Hawkinson, who is projected to be up in that kind of middle range. I think he probably goes for more than what he's projected. But again, there's people who look into this a lot more than I do, and they are the ones who are making these projections. And so if they think it's going to be closer, then you got to respect the middle linebackers there in Green Bay, and maybe think that the more athletic kind of guys that they have there that are going to be able to shut down Hawkinson a little bit more than expected. So Aaron Jones definitely play light there. Jamal Williams coming in at 0.3 under. Ryan still likes it. I think that's a solid play. I think the projections are a little bit off there, and something that's definitely worth looking into. Finally, we're going to go over receptions, pass touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and pass completions. We're going to do this kind of quickly. For receptions, Aaron Jones to get over that 16.5. They're projecting, or not projecting. The PrizePicks is showing that 2.5 catches. Fantasy Pros is showing up at 3.5. That's definitely a play that's pretty solid because that's one whole catch. And I think 3 catches for Aaron Jones isn't out of this world at all. If it were to move up to a line of 3, I think that's something where you get into a little tougher spot because they have to get up to that 4 for your cash, or for the pick to cash, and not just push again. And I think Alan Lazard is one of the rare unders that we have, and I really like Alan Lazard there under. I think that was a great pick by Ryan. I probably would have played it if he didn't put in his picks earlier than I did, but I wanted to get some diversity on the picks, and so I think Alan Lazard is definitely coming in a spot where you're looking at a push at worst, because I don't think he gets to 4. Maybe he does get to 3, but then at 3 it just pushes and turns into, if you do the 3-pick power, it turns into a 2-pick power, which is nice. And so it's definitely something where I do like Alan Lazard there because it's at that 3. If it were to be at 3.5, then maybe that gets tougher, where I think he can get to 3 catches, and so I'd probably stay away, but I don't think he gets to 4. Okay, and now Aaron Rodgers, passing touchdowns, we have him at 2.5. That's projected. That's the PrizePicks line. I think he gets to 3. I mean, if he's going to be throwing for about 290 yards, I think he can get there. But then again, you have A.J. Dillon, you have Aaron Jones, you have other guys who are going to be rushing the ball there, right? They even like to do some jet sweep action and get guys in motion. So it's kind of just a tough spot where I think the Packers do score 3 touchdowns tonight, at least. But I don't necessarily know if all of them are through the air. And so it's going to be a tough spot where the line projection for the Packers tonight is that they're going to get a 30-point implied point total. So maybe there are 4 touchdowns tonight, but if 2 of them go to a rushing touchdown, then obviously that puts you in a weird spot for Aaron Rodgers, and it's tough. But I could definitely see him having kind of that, hey, everyone's wrong about me, I'm not done yet, game where he has 4 or 5 touchdowns, and against the Lions, I don't see that as being completely out of the range of possibility. Aaron Jones is somebody, again, for the rushing yards or rushing touchdowns. He has a slight lean at 0.8 to have 1 rushing touchdown. I think it does get a little bit tough because I think A.J. Dillon is somebody, if you watch him, he is a monster to bring down and definitely a strong goal line presence. And so I think that's tough. Maybe he has to break one off, which is more than possible against this Lions defense that's not very good. We saw rushing touchdowns all over the place last week for the 49ers. We saw Deebo Samuel and all kind of motion and all that stuff get 200 receiving yards against them. So it's not out of the range of possibility, but I think it is tough because if there are any short down on the goal line, I think A.J. Dillon gets that work, and so that could be potentially tough. But Ryan's going with it. There's a slight lean there as well, so it's not a terrible pick. And then pass completions, finally. This is usually a spot that I like to go for kind of some of these showdown games, but both of them are projected to be in a spot where we would have to project the unders. Not that I don't like doing unders, it's just that Aaron Rodgers, I mean, to get to 290 yards, I think he maybe has to complete at least 25 passes. I could be wrong there, but and I don't know if I love either way there. And then Jared Goff as well. I think if this is something where if they get down early again, like they did last week, they do a lot of dink and dunks. They get a lot of first downs, kind of in a periodic way, where it's just kind of a nice easy flow of 5-yard catches here and there, and then they move down the field, and all of a sudden he's at 25, 26 pass completions. That's definitely a possibility, but I think this Packers defense is really, really good. You can definitely stymie Jared Goff there. So those are the picks. Those are the plays that we're going to be. Kind of a quick little breakdown on them. Again, if you want to go with Ryan's picks, here's his 3. If you want to go with my picks, here's my 3. If you do want to kind of do a mix, just remember that you have to have a player from each team before you can submit to PrizePicks. They're a great website. Again, feel free to go over to Fantasy Pros and then get that free 6 months of the Hall of Fame package. This is not any paid promotion here. This is just me telling you guys what we did. It's awesome, great stuff. And you get awesome projections. You get awesome season-long stuff as well. So please feel free to go over and do that. So that's it here. Again, wasn't able to get into a lot of PrizePicks stuff this weekend, so definitely want to hit this hard. Feel free to leave any comments, any questions below that you have on any of the other players that we didn't hit, or if there's something that is coming up for the Thursday night game or any DraftKings sides of the Monday Night Slate as well. Please feel free to drop those down as well, and we would love to look at those for you. So thank you guys so much. Please feel free to like and subscribe. And that's it for this one. I think Ryan's going to have the next video out of the week 1 review, so feel free to check that one out as well. See you.